Happy Monday, soul lovers. Hey, it's Danny. I am sitting here in my living room with my favorite painting behind me, doing this Facebook Live, but check it out. Like, I'm totally being watched by a dog. It's kind of funny. So today, Mondays in April, we are talking about self-compassion. So as a quick recap, last week we talked about parts of self, and the metaphor that we used was the concept of the people on your bus, and that you're not just one person, but you have a whole bunch of people that are riding on the bus of your life, and depending on the circumstance and the triggers and whatever's going on, different people will hop into the driver's seat. And as a recap, none of these parts are bad. They all have positive intention. They all want to help you. And sometimes that help is awesome and it helps you be super successful in many areas of your life. And sometimes those parts are not so helpful because when our inner 5-year-old hijacks us, 5-year-olds don't drive very well. And if our inner hermit hijacks us, hermits tend to want to pull over under a tree and just go to sleep for an afternoon, which can be great if that's what you need. And if your inner hermit is still sleeping a month later, that might not help you create what you're wanting in your life. So how we want to work with parts leads us into the second piece of this installment, which is the concept of self-compassion. So first of all, before we talk about how parts and self-compassion interact, I want to talk about what self-compassion is and is not. First of all, self-compassion is, how I define it, it is the gentle, nurturing energy that we offer to our parts of self. So that is my definition. That's not going to be out of Webster's or anything like that, but I'll say that again. The gentle, nurturing energy that you offer to your parts of self. So if you watched the Facebook Live from last week, and you still can, it's still in this thread if you want to go take a look at it, I talked about the idea of how when our parts of self hijack us, how we know we're being hijacked is because we have an inner observer, or I refer to it as your authentic self, which is what we're going to talk about next week. But your authentic self, or your inner observer, is the one who becomes aware of who has hijacked me, who is in the driver's seat, what is going on here. And it is from that part of you, that inner observer or that authentic self, that self-compassion comes. Right? It is that part of you that says, I'm going to offer gentle, nurturing energy to this part that has hijacked me. So there's a separation there, and that's pretty important. As I have found self-compassion to be the most helpful when my clients are able to get separation to say, I am observing this part that is needing something from me, and I'm going to offer self-compassion. By externalizing it, you can literally think of, like, I will often, as a homework assignment, have clients get a picture of themselves as a child, as a little girl or a little boy. Because sometimes seeing a picture of yourself as a little child, where it pulls on some of that tenderness in you, that can help you tap into self-compassion. And so it's having that separation, so your authentic self can say, oh, I see a part who needs something from me, so I'm going to offer gentle, nurturing energy. Okay, that's the crux of the definition of self-compassion. What self-compassion is not is self-care. Now, it is certainly a form of self-care, but there are many self-care activities that you can do without being self-compassionate, right? You can take yourself on a run and beat the crap out of yourself the whole way about how slow you are, or how bad you look, or whatever your voice may be. You can take yourself to get a massage and sit there and beat yourself up about all the things you're not doing while you're getting that massage. So whatever self-care is to you, you can do it with self-compassion, but you can also do self-care without self-compassion, right? So there's a pretty clear difference there. Where I work with my clients in terms of helping them have the most healing and the most strides in their life where they're wanting to have it is not so much about self-care, that can certainly be a part of it, but letting self-compassion stand on its own. And so what does it mean for you to offer gentle, nurturing energy to your parts of self? And so let's put that aside for just a second. A couple of other things that self-compassion is not self-pity. And how you can think of it is, if you were to see a child sitting on a sidewalk who was fearful and who was upset, and you were to go up to that child and want to put your arm around him or her and comfort that child, you would not be pitying that child. You are offering compassion. Right? If you get caught in Self-compassion feels like self-pity. My encouragement to you is to recognize the part that's saying this is self-pity, that's a critic. That's another part of you that is interfering with your ability to practice self-compassion. So just have that awareness of, oh, this is not my authentic self. This is not the part of me that is capable of offering self-compassion. This is my critic who's trying to turn it into pity, because even that critic is trying to protect you from something. Because self-compassion can be vulnerable. For most people, when they're truly practicing self-compassion, particularly for their littles, I used that term yesterday, it's your littles being the true fear, the true sadness, the true hurt, the true shame, those truly more vulnerable emotions. When they feel compassion coming from you, there's a deep vulnerability and often a release. There can be an emotional release, which is healing, which is good. But oftentimes we want to protect against that feeling, and so our critic can come in and be like, oh, heck no, this is self-pity. You don't feel sorry for yourself. And I just want to say, that's not it at all. So just catch yourself on that. And the other thing that self-compassion is it is not a way of being a pushover. It's not, I ate an entire chocolate cake, so I'm going to offer myself gentle, nurturing energy, and then I can just go do it again. It's not about that. Because one of the biggest, I want to say mistake. I don't know if that's the right word, but it doesn't matter. One of the biggest things that can happen with people with self-compassion is they feel like, okay, I need to fix the problem. So here's the other thing that self-compassion is not. It is not an action. You're not doing something. We always want to do something first, right? So I've been hijacked by something. I want to go and I want to fix it. I want to fix the problem. And fixing is good. Like, we will eventually want to fix it. But when it comes to practicing self-compassion, what you really need to do is take the fixing energy and put it to the side. Then go offer that gentle, nurturing energy, and all it is a being. It is not a doing, it is a being. That's a really important distinction about what self-compassion is self-compassion is a way that you be with yourself. It is not something you do to fix a problem. The doing comes second. Anyone who has ever worked with children, I think you will understand this. If you have a child that is upset, I'm not talking about temper tantrum, that's a whole different thing. But if you have a child that is upset, that is sad, that is hurt, if you try to go in and fix it, that child will often not be able to move past those emotions. Because what they really need is just come adult mommy or daddy and just put your arm around me and comfort me. Once I'm comforted and I'm relaxed, right? I'm talking from the viewpoint of the child. Once that child is comforted and relaxed, then they are in a much better space, emotional and mental, to be able to say, okay, how do we want to fix this problem now? Right? The same thing goes for your inner children, your inner parts. When they're activated, what they need is to be acknowledged. And you just need to offer that gentle, nurturing energy and just be with the part that's activated. Simply by acknowledging, that will often calm that part down. And when that part is calmed down, what have you created? You've created space to be able to solve a problem. So that is the quick and dirty on self-compassion. I know that it feels like that's a lot of information, but I would love to open up a dialogue in the comments. If you have questions or thoughts about this, I'd love to hear about your own experience with self-compassion. When does it work? When does it not work? And let's start up a discussion about this. And also, if this is something that is inspiring to you or intriguing to you, just know that all of these things we're talking about, so parts of self from last week, self-compassion right now. Next week, we're going to talk about the authentic self, so it's that part of you that's able to offer self-compassion. Later on this summer, I'm going to be putting together a telecourse to really dive deeply into this, and it'll include some group coaching and some individual coaching as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, keep that in mind. Let me know that so I can be sure to let you know. But let me know what questions you have, and I hope that you have a fabulous rest of your Monday. Bye.